So, you guys, I want to draw your attention to something that I wish I had learned about in school. When we were taught about nuclear arms, I think we were taught about it through the lens of the Cold War, or like Hiroshima. You know what I mean? Of like big weapons like that. And something that I didn't even think about is the fact that like technically the Cold War didn't end until what, 1989? And that time period, some people would say the height is like 1948 through 1952, 1956, but then other folks would say the height would actually be the 80s. And I would say this is marked by this thing that I did not know happened, okay? In 1981, NATO, which was largely, I would say, heavy on the U.S. point of view side of things. NATO, the U.S. government, and the government in the U.K. had made this deal that the U.S. would house 96 cruise missiles on U.K. soil as like a protection measure, because the rhetoric at that point was that we need nuclear arms to protect us from
them.
Russia. Yeah. And China and other places, right? So in that same year, 36 women decided to walk 120 miles from Cardiff, Wales to a part of England in Berkshire, England, where the Greenham, it's like a Royal Air Force base, which is called Greenham Common. And they decided to make that a 120-mile trek in protest. And then they just set up camp there outside, like outside the enclosure. And then literally thousands of women joined them, and it became the longest protest, one of the longest protests in the history of protests. It essentially lasted for 20 years.
Wow.
And like at different stages was like super active. The missiles did end up arriving in 1983, but they stayed there. And they like, when I say stayed there, I don't mean they like went home at the end of the day. I mean, they like had caravans. Like some people were there for years. And it was a women's only camp. I was so privileged to be able to talk to a Greenham Common vet. Her name is Rebecca Johnson. She is a disarmament advocate. She's on a Nobel Peace Prize-winning team for a bunch of different arms treaties that were negotiated by the UN and by ICON. She is also a subject in a new documentary that's coming out with Universal called Mothers of the Revolution. And it charts the journey of the Greenham woman and like talks about the feminism involved in there, the different movements that were unearthed through this one really huge, awesome act. So I'm going to show you you're going to hear Rebecca speaking, and then you're going to also see some of the footage from Greenham. Let's take a look.
35,000 women heeded our call to what we said, embrace the base on Sunday, close the base on Monday. And so over 35,000, there's even songs, 35,000 women for peace, embracing the base, so there'll be no more wars, that kind of thing. But 6,000 of them, many of whom had not intended to stay overnight. They'd come down from Glasgow or Manchester or Wales, in coaches. And they just said to their friends, look, the coach has to go back without me. I'm staying. 6,000. And we completely closed the base for over 24 hours. We didn't allow anyone to go in or out of the base at all.
I mean,
incredible.
Wow. Yeah, I know.
From 35 women, you said?
It started with 36 women on this trek, and ended up like in its most active years, about 70,000 women ended up going in and out of Greenham Common, and millions of other women across the world were involved. And I mean, you have to hear the whole conversation. It's absolutely amazing. I would say I cannot wait for everybody to see this documentary. It features Rose McGowan, and I believe Glenda Jackson, who's a former MP, narrates it. Julie Christie's in there. And then a bunch of the Greenham women. And this is a massive legacy. This changed their lives and is such a testament to, a bunch of ordinary people doing something extraordinary. I think people have this idea that you have to be a certain kind of person, a certain kind of thing to create waves, but you don't. Like every single movement has started with an idea and with one person or two people or three people or four people or more or 36 people deciding to stand up for something they believe in and inspiring a bunch of other people to do the same. So if you want to be inspired and empowered,
Where can we find it?
Listen
Yes.
in on, I believe, anywhere you listen to podcasts, y'all. This is one of our inaugural Erupt podcasts, so I'm really excited for people to hear Rebecca. She's got a lot to say. She's so fascinating and dynamic to listen to, and you will feel it in your bones for sure.